Hello, welcome to today's video. So let's get straight to the point. I got a new job, and that is relevant to today's video for a couple of reasons. For one, I now have a locker at work that I am allowed to keep things in even when I'm not at work. Revolutionary, I know. For another thing, this job does have some shifts where I have to work until midnight. Since I don't drive yet and the buses here don't run until midnight, there are a couple of days where I'm going to have to go crash at a friend's place. She lives within walking distance. And then sometimes I work the next day, so I have to bounce right back to work. That actually happened this week, and I was not prepared at all. So thank you very much to my friend Lauren for letting me borrow some pajama pants and her makeup brushes. So one of my coworkers actually gave me an idea that I could curate and put together a little emergency bag containing a full face of makeup and some skincare to leave in my locker at work for when the need strikes, whenever that may be. And if you're curious to see what's in this bag, just keep watching. So here's the bag itself. It is technically a makeup bag, but it looks like, and could probably double as, a really big pencil case. It has all of these different compartments of different sizes and depths, which I really like for holding multiple products and being able to compartmentalize them, obviously. So for skincare, I didn't want to bring anything too big or bulky, both because I didn't have the room and because I don't really want perfectly good skincare just sitting in my locker going bad if I don't end up using it that often. So I got these three e.l.f. minis in a little holiday set recently that also came with a full size of their super hydrating moisturizer and a sheet mask. And that set cost me $25. I'm probably going to end up gifting the moisturizer and using the sheet mask at some point, but I figured that these minis would be perfect to bring back and forth to work. They're small enough not to be bulky, but there's actually quite a bit of product in each one. They're inexpensive, but the ingredients are actually pretty good. The ingredients and the effects themselves are actually pretty basic, pretty neutral. It's not like I'm using an AHA toner or a scrub or a retinol eye cream that's going to affect my skin drastically or sensitize my skin. And the packaging actually feels really sturdy for it being so inexpensive. It doesn't feel like they're going to bust open or bend or crack in my bag. So I've got their daily face cleanser. It's just a basic gel cleanser. It makes my face feel clean without drying it out. The Keep Your Balance toner, I actually really like that it's a balancing toner in here. If I'm working an 8-hour shift and then walking a kilometer or two to my friend's house with my old makeup on and sweating and everything like that, my skin will tend to get a bit out of whack, so this is just going to help to reset it back to normal. And I would say the star of the kit is actually this little illuminating eye cream, which I really love. It feels so refreshing, it wakes me right up, and it has a super thin consistency while still being really nice and hydrating. And they packed this tiny jar just completely full of eye cream. So this is going to last me forever. For my moisturizer, I have the Sephora Collection Hya All Day Hydrator. I've gone through a bunch of full sizes of this moisturizer. This one's just a little mini point perk. It's a great basic moisturizer. I don't find it screws with my makeup at all. It's lightweight enough, but it's also hydrating enough to keep my face feeling calm overnight. So yeah, this guy's really small, but I actually have quite a few point perk sized moisturizers at home, so I'll just be able to chuck another one in the bag when I'm gone through this. And then I threw in this Dr. Jart Cicapair Tiger Grass Re.Pair Serum just because it was tiny. I had it at home, I hadn't used it, and I figure it might be good if my skin needs a little bit of extra hydration or if it's irritated. I have the Tarte Jelly Glaze Anytime Lip Mask in Winter Berry. I just needed a lip balm in here. This one's actually a tinted lip balm, but I'm probably going to end up wearing it overnight anyway. And then I stuck a mini hair product in here just because I had it. This is a little sample size of the R&Co High Dive Moisture and Shine Creme. It's pretty good for flyaways or if my hair is frizzy or staticky, which it often gets like that at work because for some reason our staff room is like static city. These are very wasteful, but I can't lie to you and say that they're not going to be useful. I don't really want to stick a whole pack of wipes in my locker. I just don't have the room. And these I'll be able to use one at a time while being sure that they're not going to dry out because they are individually packaged. So I would just remove my makeup with one of these and then go in with the e.l.f. gel cleanser and the rest of my skincare routine. So now we can go ahead and talk about the makeup. So I have this Annabelle Refreshing Perfecting Primer enriched with Caviar Lime Pearl Extract Annabelle is a brand that you can only get in Canada, I believe. This is actually a pretty good all-in-one primer. It is paraben-free, it is oil-free, it's hydrating and smoothing and gets rid of a bit of redness at the same time. Then I have a little guy of the Professional License to Blot from Benefit. I've never used this before, but I just had it sitting at home and I tend to get pretty shiny at work, so I might use this around my nose or on my forehead. It's just this little clear stick that you can use underneath your makeup as a mattifier or on top of your makeup to blot without disturbing it. So I'm going to test this out and I'll probably let you guys know what I think. So picking a concealer was actually really tough. I needed something that was really good, meaning something with good coverage that looks fresh and doesn't stick to dry patches or sink into lines and lasts a long time. Because my under eyes like to eat concealer. Unfortunately, if I use the wrong concealer, I'll seriously end up with just holes in my makeup, like under my eyes where the concealer was, even if I set it. It's so frustrating. I needed something that was really good, but that I wasn't going to miss a ton if I took it out of my collection at home. And this was the only one that really fit the bill for that. This is the e.l.f. Hydrating Satin Finish Camo Concealer. I really love how this concealer looks on me when I'm super tired, especially because putting the wrong concealer under tired eyes just makes me look horrifying. But this one matches my skin tone very well. It's not so light that it'll make me look gray if I put it on top of dark circles. I can actually set this concealer without it looking dry or cakey, and then it also has enough coverage to cover blemishes while still staying flexible and not clinging. However, I haven't been giving it enough love at home, so I put it in this bag. Similarly, I needed a foundation that would stand up to an 8-hour shift under either a mask or a face shield, but something that still looked natural and was easy to put on, that I wasn't going to dearly miss out of my home collection. So I picked this Cover FX foundation because it is really easy to put on. It's just a cream compact that I can dunk my beauty blender into. It's pretty agreeable no matter what my skin is doing or what powder I put on top of it. It looks pretty natural, but it's not really something I end up wearing at home. And then for my powder, I definitely wasn't going to put a loose powder in here. I just don't need that mess. I wanted something that had enough coverage that I could touch up my foundation with it, mattifying enough that I could blot with it, but lightweight enough that I could set my foundation and concealer with it. I haven't used this powder in a long time actually, but I remember it being all of the above. Then I have this little baby guy of the Morphe Continuous Setting Mist. I'm so glad I have a mini of this. They do sell a regular mini, but this is the one that they did in collaboration with Saweet. It is peach scented. This setting spray is just indispensable in my collection. It just melts everything down and stops me from looking overly powdery without making me dewy. And then for all of my cheek products, I decided to go with a face palette, and this is the big ticket item in the bag. This is the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Sculpture palette from this year's holiday collection. So I bought this, and I'm not using it nearly enough for someone who coveted all of Hourglass's powders so dearly for over 4 or 5 years. But it's actually perfect for this bag. It has 2 different tones of blush, a bronzer, 2 little kind of setting powders, and then a highlighter. Plus it has a big ol' mirror, say hi to my glass of water, I guess. I'll probably use the mirror to do my makeup since there's no guarantee exactly where I'll be having to get ready. Moving on to the eyes, I need to have eyeshadow primer because my eyes get so oily and creasy. I have the Catrice Eye Foundation Waterproof Eyeshadow Primer. This is a pretty good dupe for the Smashbox Shadow Primer, except that it comes in a little doe foot. I have the Smashbox Shadow Primer at home, so this Catrice one was just sitting in my collection unused. The NYX Glitter Primer, I've had this forever. Similarly, I don't use it much anymore because I have the Too Faced Glitter Glue at home now, but I can use this to foil the more metallic shades in my palette that I picked out for my eyes. And the palette that I picked out might come as a surprise to people because it is so small, and I'm usually a maximalist when it comes to my eyeshadow. So this is the Fenty Snap Shadow Palette in the shade Fine Wine. I originally picked this up because it looked like the perfect all-in-one palette, And then it turned out I didn't need an all-in-one mini palette at home because I like to play around with my eyeshadow. It's perfect for this bag though because it has enough variety, but it won't allow me to overcomplicate a look if I need to get ready quickly. The tones in here are pretty flattering and perfect for fall and winter, and it's just so tiny. It's perfect. If I'm getting ready in a hurry or just not at my house, I'm probably not going to want to do eyeliner, but I grabbed these anyway. These are the mini Tartist double-ended eyeliners, and I have the black one and the burgundy one. So they have a little twist-up gel pencil side as well as a ink pen side. Hopefully I end up using these at work. If not, I mean, I wasn't using them at home anyway, so no big deal. For my mascara, I actually purchased this one a few days ago on the aforementioned night that I had to stay at my friend's house. And it's incredible. It looks really nice. It's not clumpy at all, but it still gives some impact. And it's the only mascara that I've tried in months that doesn't smudge on me. I wore this on a whole last night shift and it did not smudge. I might have to keep this one for home and purchase a second one to leave in my bag. I mean, it's like $4. For my brows, I have this big guy, and this is the Velour 3-in-1 Fluff and Brow Pencil. So it has a little spoolie on the end there that you can close up with this cap. And then it has the actual pencil, which is a bit thick, more of that triangular tip, kind of like the Anastasia Brow Definer or the Benefit Goof Proof. And then on the other end here, it has a brow conditioning balm, which I can kind of use to keep my brows in place. This thing is a bit too clunky for me to want to use at home, but it'll be perfect for the bag because while it's not super precise, I can get my brows done super quickly with it. For lips, I went excessively pinky nude. I have the Wet n Wild Perfect Pout Gel Lip Liner in Bear to Comment, which is just, yeah, a nice pinky nude. Then I can pair that with the Cosa Sport Lip Fuel Lip Balm in Pulse. So this is a tinted lip balm that I keep forgetting to wear at home, but I get lots of compliments when I wear it out, so I like wearing it at work. Oh, and just in terms of wearing lip products at work, I only wear them if I'm wearing a face shield, not a mask. So then I have this Maybelline Lifter Gloss in the shade Stone. The texture on this is a bit too thick for me to want to wear at home, but I actually really like wearing it at work because it stays on throughout me talking to people for a couple of hours, which is always nice. Then I have the NARS Oil Infused Lip Tint in Laguna. Honestly, I just chucked this in here because it's really lightweight and it's really pretty. Like, look at that. And lastly, for the lips, I have the Smashbox Gloss Angeles Lip Gloss in Mercurial Mauve. I love this gloss, but it was limited edition, hence I don't get a ton of use out of it at home because I tend to forget about it. But it's super comfortable and it's super flattering. And that's that one there. It pretty much goes with everything else. So I figured I would also show you the brushes that I am bringing. I don't have the names of all of them, but I just kind of wanted to show you what I thought I would need in order to get a complete look. I also mostly tried to pick brushes that I had either doubles of or that I wouldn't miss too much out of my collection. So I have this really old Sonia Kashuk brush. You might actually recognize this if you used to follow my blog. This is one of their blush brushes, and I used to use this in high school for just about everything. I would use it for my blush, my bronzer, and then I would actually pinch it to use it for highlighter. So I'm going to put that in there. And then just another blush brush in case that other one gets a little too dirty or I want something more precise because this is a bit of a thinner brush. This is the Sephora Collection number 55 airbrush. This is going to be my touch-up brush. This is the 47.5 Pro Mini Foundation from Sephora Collection. The 47 is one of my favorite brushes ever. I love it for setting under my eyes, for touch-ups, for actually powdering my whole face. I have this Sephora Collection Makeup Match Foundation brush, and I have a couple of these actually. It's one of my favorite brushes to set my whole face with. It actually looks like that 47 brush, just fluffier, so you get less of a dense application. And then I also have the Sephora Collection Makeup Match Concealer brush, which is kind of like their foundation brush, just smaller and a little more dense for better concealer application. I really like how this one fits under the eyes and around the sides of the nose. I did also put a sponge in here, but I actually have it downstairs at the sink because I have to wash it, so I'm not going to show you that right away. Here are all the eye brushes. I figured this was going to be the time to shine for all of my little double-ended eye brushes that came in palettes that I never end up using because they're so short and small. So I have a couple of the Anastasia Beverly Hills little double-ended eye brushes. I just chucked both of those in there because I'm not going to use them otherwise. And on those ones, there's kind of like a fluffy tapered crease side and then a fluffy packing brush. I have a little Cargo Cosmetics brush that, again, I got in one of their palettes. I believe it was the Northern Lights palette, which is really throwing it back there. I used to use this in high school too. I actually really like how this brush has held up. It has this little bendy tapered side that I like to use for liner or the lower lash line. And then this really beautiful just domed shader on the other end. Then I have this little Old as the Hills Crown Brushes double-ended brush that I think my sister got in an Ipsy bag once upon a time. So on one side it has a little pencil brush that I can use on the lower lash line, and then a little fluffy shader, which I'll probably use for buffing things through my crease or buffing out the top of my crease with the lightest shade in the Fenty palette. A big fluffy crease brush from Lab 2, Lab Squared. This is the Just In blending brush, again, I think from my sister's Ipsy once upon a time. And then finally, the only brush I actually purchased on its own is the Morphe M321. So this is just a little tiny bullet crease blender, which I'm going to end up using for the outer corner. So that is it for all the stuff that's in the bag. So now I'm going to do my full face of makeup using only the products and the tools that I put in my little overnight travel work bag, kind of just to take them for a test run, feel out any kinks, see if there's anything I want to change, add anything that's redundant that I want to take out. So I'm going to do my skincare. I'm actually going to start with that little e.l.f. toner. It is a very light citrusy scent and it doesn't seem to leave any residue on the skin. And it does not sting my eyes when I go over them, which is really good because that means I'll be able to remove eyeshadow fallout with it if I need to. Then I'm going to use a little bit of that Illuminating Eye Cream underneath my eyes, obviously. You only need a tiny little bit with this, and it's unscented, I believe, which is good because my eyes get watery if I use anything that is like rose scented or citrus scented underneath them. And in lieu of using moisturizer all over my whole face, since I am going to go directly in with primer and I don't want them to pill on each other, I'm just going to use a little bit of that eye cream around my nose and around my mouth. Since it is a really lightweight consistency, it's going to sink right into the skin without causing my makeup to pill or shift or not adhere to my skin. But it's going to soothe any redness and irritation I have in those areas, and it's also going to smooth down any flaky patches that I have congested around the sides of my nose. So that's actually all I'm going to do for skincare. I'm going to go right in with that Catrice eye primer and do my eyes before my face, just because I haven't used this Fenty palette a lot and I don't know how much fallout it has. I usually do my eyes before my face anyways, though. Then going into the Fenty 9 Wine palette, this pale shade Rosé Spritz, I'm just going to use to set my crease. Just really messily throwing that everywhere. Then taking one of those Anastasia double-ended brushes, I'm going to dip between Rosé Spritz and Sherry Fairy over here and start to run that through my crease as a transition shade. And I'm choosing to combine the two shades because it's actually just going to create a shade in between, something that's a little softer, and it'll make it look like I used more eyeshadows than I actually did. Then just taking Rosé Spritz again to blend out that outer edge. Then I can go ahead and take Sherry Fairy on its own and place it a bit closer into my crease using that same Anastasia brush. And I just want to build that up slowly. I think I'm going to do a bit of like a subtle halo eye. And don't worry about this kind of jagged outer edge. I'm going to clean that up with the toner later. So then I'm going into this really deep purple shade, which is called Pinot Please, and packing that onto my outer corner. Actually, this is really nice as I'm packing it all the way across my lid. I like how that looks. So I'm just gently tapping that all over my lid so that I don't get a ton of fallout. I'm not swiping back and forth. I'm just patting and then almost pressing the shadow into my lid. And then I'm just going to take the smaller end of that Anastasia brush and gently blend that purple into the brown that we have in the crease with no additional product and just a feather light touch, letting the bristles do all the work for me, almost just coaxing them together. So that's what that looks like there. I actually really like how it looks all matte. I'm pretty sure I'm going to keep it like this. Maybe do a little bit of a liner, but I don't think I'm going to put any shimmer on the lid or anything like that. That means that we can move on to the face. I'm going to use that Annabelle Refreshing Perfecting Primer all over. And I love how this doesn't feel silicone-y. It just feels like a gel moisturizer. I'm not really going to put any on my forehead because above my brows here is where my skin tends to like reject primer and moisturizer for some reason. It tends to pill here no matter what I do, even if I haven't put anything on underneath it, even if I've just cleansed. It's like my skin does not want to accept any sort of product over there except for foundation. And I'm going to use a bit of that Benefit License to Blot stick. I'm going to put a little bit on my chin here and just kind of press it in. And then maybe I'll take a little bit on my finger because I don't want to over apply. And I'm just going to press it on the sides of my nose here where I tend to get really oily really quickly. So I'm going to use my e.l.f. concealer before my foundation. Just swipe a bit of that on, and I'm just going to use my beauty blender to blend it out because I don't feel like dirtying any brushes that I don't really have to, considering that I'm almost out of brush cleaner and I'm going to have to take those brushes to work after. And then I'll use that Total Cover Cream from Cover FX with the same sponge. I just dump my sponge right in there and start spreading it around my face. It has a very similar finish to that e.l.f. concealer, so the two tend to mesh really well on my skin. So that's my foundation right there. I'm just throwing a little bit more concealer right in the hollow between my eye and my nose to really brighten my face up because the eyeshadow got a little too dark in there. So now that the sun has decided to disappear and the lighting's going to go in and out, we can powder. I'm going to use that NYX powder, obviously, that I threw in there with the Sephora Collection Makeup Match Foundation Brush. And yes, I'm just going to powder everywhere here since my goal is to have a very long wearing face of makeup for work, and I do want to test how long this wears. So I wouldn't say I look super cakey or anything, but I certainly don't look dewy. I'm going to do my brows really quick. We're not done the eyes or the face, but I'm sick of looking at myself with foundation and no brows, if you feel me. So I just used the spoolie end of that velour brow pencil, and now I'm going to use the little balm that it comes with to kind of just add a bit of tint to the front of my brows, almost just as like a base or a primer for the pencil to stick to, I guess. It's supposed to be a conditioning balm with a bit of hold. I just like that it has a bit of tint. I don't actually find that it has hold. It's definitely not a wax or anything like that. So then I'm just going to go in with the pencil end and really quickly, hopefully quickly, fill in my brows. Apologies if I look a little out of whack right now. I went to go get another glass of water and proceeded to just fucking fall down the stairs really violently. So that really hurt, but we're gonna go on with the show even though my ass is just really, really sore. We might skip the liner though. I don't have time or patience for that. So I'm just gonna finish up the eyes now. I'm gonna take that little champagne shade called She Bubbly on the pencil end of that brush from Crown Brushes. And then on the same pencil brush, I'm going to take the shimmery brown called Pop the Cork and just run that along my lower lash line, really close to the lashes. And then I'm just taking a mix of the two shimmers and using that on the middle of the lower lash line to blend the two together. And then I'll just kind of buff that edge out with the other end of that Crown Brushes brush, the fluffier side that's still a little bit dense. And then I think I'm going to take just a little bit of Pinot Please and really try and stamp that right onto the outer corner of the lower lash line, just to add some depth. And then while I don't really want to use liquid liner right now, I'm going to use that Aubergine pencil liner from Tarte in my waterline. So we're not quite done the eyes. We have to put on mascara, and then I want to do a bit of a brow bone highlight, but I'm actually going to go into my Ambient Lighting Sculpture face palette for that. And we might as well do the face while we're here. So I'm going to mix this shade with the bronzer here and start putting that, you know, where I would normally put bronzer. I find that while this bronzer doesn't look patchy in person, it tends to look patchy on camera, which is kind of a bummer. That's part of the reason why I'm mixing it with that finishing powder. Also partially to lighten it up a bit. Sweep a bit down my neck and on my jaw. And then just a little bit along my hairline and my temples. And since my face seems to be lacking a little bit of definition because of the coverage of that foundation, I'm going to not really contour my nose, but just dust a little bit of finishing powder mixed with bronzer around it. Then I'm going to take that blush, the more plummy one called Mood Exposure, and just sweep that on. I want to keep it pretty high up on the cheekbones, especially since we have a deeper eye look. I don't want to have the blush dragging the face down any more than it needs to. So I'll just dab it on and then sweep it upwards. Since it's a plummy tone, I feel okay putting a bit of this on the temples as well. So I just built that up a little bit more, and then I'm going to go in with the pinkier finishing powder and kind of use that to blur everything together and give a little bit of a base for me to put that highlight on. Since the highlight in this palette is weirdly like a little deep for my skin tone, it's actually deeper than the finishing powders, which I find to be a bit strange. So I'll just kind of pinch my brush like this and then go into that highlight, and then swipe that upwards on my cheekbones. And I'm really going to buff it in because I want to work the pearl out of that highlight in order for it to look shiny instead of just, you know, dusty and a bit too pigmented on me. And actually work it down a little bit into my blush as well to make it look more at home. So I'll put a little bit down my nose and on my lip, and then maybe a little bit kind of on the inner edge of my temples just to blend that bronzer into the foundation a bit more. And then, as I mentioned, I'll use some of that highlight as a brow bone shade. I'm going to set that down with a bit of my Morphe setting spray. And then I can go in with mascara after this dries. Might as well line my lips while it's drying though, just using that Wet n Wild liner in Bear to Comment. And then I'll put on some of that Essence Bye Bye Panda Eyes mascara. So yeah, that mascara isn't anything crazy, but it's crazy good at not smudging, and it does add quite a bit of definition. For the lips, I'm actually going to throw on the NARS Oil Infused Lip Tint in Laguna. Pretty much a clear gloss with a little bit of bronzy shimmer. So here's the finished look in direct sunlight. I really like how it turned out. The eyes look really nice and rich, and the lip is nice and light, but doesn't clash, I find. The cheeks actually turned out a lot better in natural lighting than they did under studio lighting, so thank goodness there. But yeah, that's the finished look. So I hope you enjoyed seeing what I have in my overnight makeup bag, as well as how everything played out on my face. I know I did, except for the part where I fell down the stairs. I'm gonna go ice my tailbone now. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.